common, among other things, is the fact that our guest today worked on them, or with the individuals who put those movies together. Hospitality Business School graduate, one of the most interesting and interested people I know, George Constance. And here he comes.
Beautiful. The next one. And then hit this one. Okay. All right. Hey, folks. So my name is George, and I sat in this class at one point. I graduated 10 years ago in May. And I kind of wanted to talk to you, but I talked to a couple of classes, and I'm trying to think about what is the most important thing that I can talk about. And you guys are going to have a lot of people, talk about business and talk about hospitality and the restaurants and the hotels. But I'm not really going to get into that, and I'm not going to really get into the film business. After I'm done talking, if you have questions about that or about, kind of the road there, I'd be happy to answer them. But what I wanted to talk about today is the concept of kind of how we set ourselves up to make a successful life for ourselves. And when I mean successful life, everybody kind of has an idea of what that is. And is it the person that makes the most money? Probably not. If you'd ask somebody, would you rather make $150,000 a year and work 100 hours a week, or make $80,000 a year and work 15 hours a week? Then that's going to play into the role of life and income. So what I tried to do is I tried not only to take my experiences, but I tried to go to all the people that I knew that I went to school with, but also to directors and producers, to ask them what they think is the difference between doing something that you wake up in the morning and you feel excited about doing, and you feel like you're contributing in some way. Now, I make movies. Is that the greatest thing ever? No. I could be a doctor, I could be saving people. Is that the greatest thing ever? I don't know. It's all in our own minds. But now the question is, how do we frame our minds to think like this? And so a common thread for the people that I asked was the idea of we do what's required, or we do what we feel we want to do. And a concept called functional fixedness is basically how we view objects. And it's a very simple concept, but how you view a pen is to use as a pen, or a hammer you use it to pound in nails. But the question is, can we think about it in a different way than what it's intended for? And right now, you guys are part of it, we're all part of this gigantic recycle, use movement. And magazines like Ready Made and Tree Hugger and Instructables are showing us how to take objects and use them in ways that we haven't thought about using them. And it's interesting because as humans, when we're aged at 5, we don't think of things in what they're supposed to be. We're taught, we're programmed to think of how we look at the world. And I look at some people that are thinking outside of that to say, okay, these are shipping containers. Well, why can't we use them as houses? They're sitting there rotting. We have millions of them around the world. Or, we want to make a lamp out of a Kettle One bottle. Or this person that made this nice tobacco smoking device out of a Nintendo game system. But the point is, now we can do that with objects. It's easier for us to see it as an object. It's oh, that's no big deal. He made this out of that. But the question is, how do we do it in our minds so we live like this in our thought processes? And this is a very simple but very fundamental problem that most of you might know, And I'll explain it if you don't know. I don't really want to get into it too much, so if you do know it, it even helps me out a little bit. But this is a classic problem where they say you have a candle, you have a book of matches, and you have some tacks. And how do you set up the candle using these items so the wax doesn't fall on the table? And people try all sorts of methods. They like melt the candle, try to affix it to the wall, or they try to use a tack to get the wick, but then the wick burns so it falls down. The solution, which is very easy, is if you dump the tacks out of the box, you can use the box as a ledge. But the problem is with the slide before is our mind doesn't look at the box as something we can use. And when they do tests of this, if they just underline the word box of tacks, people are twice as fast as figuring it out. But our mind kind of plays these little tricks on us. So the business world, the academic world, and maybe most of your boyfriends and girlfriends want to try to have you figure out how to solve and think things a little bit differently. And how do they do this? And they do it with monetary incentives. Okay? The business world in particular works on monetary incentives. That the better you do, if you're working on commission, if you're working on bonuses, then the better off you are. Now, so they set up this experiment with this candle experiment, and they put two groups together. They put one group that they weren't giving any financial incentive to. And they were giving the second group a financial incentive that if you're in the top 20%, you will get $20. If you are the fastest one to figure this out, you will get $100. And how much faster did the group with the cash do it? Twice as fast? 4 times as fast. They did it 3.5 minutes longer. It took the group that was getting paid 3.5 minutes longer than it took the people that weren't getting paid. And you folks are saying that don't make any sense. And this has been proven time and time again. Now I'm going to get back